We go. Good evening, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us on Menopause Monday, the November edition. So I'm delighted to be delivering these menopause calls on a monthly basis. The last one was, October was World Menopause Awareness Month. So that was quite a significant one. And we're sort of heading into Christmas. So um, I'm not sure if this will be the last one this year, but yeah, thanks so much for my guest speakers as well. And I'm going to be introducing Nadira next, who is a specialist menopause doctor. So really grateful that you've given up your time to come on the call tonight, Nadira. And I believe Nadira is going to be sort of focusing a bit more on cortisol, the stress hormone. And I just wanted to highlight actually one of the things that I've massively learned since I've been in my sort of perimenopause and menopause journey is that it's so crucial that we look after our health. We do need to look at changing our lifestyles and adding in good nutrition, exercise. So whilst there are the HRT is something that's available to us ladies, I think that we do all really need to look at our menopause toolkit and see what we're doing for ourselves, because I think that's incredibly important. So I shall hand you over to Nadira, and if you could, that'd be great, Nadira, if you can tell us a bit more about what we discussed, the cortisol levels, and any other advice that you can offer us.
No, fantastic. Thank you very much for inviting me, Zoe. So I was hoping, obviously, there'd be bigger numbers and it'd be a really informal chat. So I don't have any slides at all because I don't like people sitting behind slides all the time and you're just reading the information. But Zoe wanted me to focus on sleep and the menopause. And it's really, really common for women to basically have insomnia in their 40s and 50s. We have a disturbance of our circadian rhythm. So the circadian rhythm is a natural cycle that occurs over a 24-hour period. So what happens is, first thing in the morning, when you get that light stimulus coming through your curtains, your body will actually produce the cortisol, which is your stress hormone. It's at the highest peak. So it comes from your brain and it will peak. And then what happens as the day goes on, that cortisol level will then decrease and kind of get less and less and less. And then in the evening, when you're basically nice and calm, your melatonin gets produced in the evening. So that's your calming hormone. And so what happens as we get older, there's a disruption of this natural circadian rhythm where we're actually going to bed earlier. We're waking up slightly earlier as well. And actually, the brain then goes, actually, I don't understand this. And it fires off different chemical neurotransmitters and disrupts that natural cycle as well. And also, as Zoe says, we live a very different lifestyle now as well. We're really busy. We're busy with kind of work, we're busy with kids, we're busy kind of running around like our social lives. So you can imagine that cortisol, your natural stress hormone, is always permanently raised. You're not giving it a chance to basically have that natural cycle of decreasing. So the more stressed you are, the more cortisol your brain is going to produce. And what happens is, kind of call it the cortisol steal. So when your cortisol levels are up, what happens is it steals away from your natural hormones. So it steals away from your estrogen and your progesterone. So if you've been like me, when you're particularly stressed, your periods go all over the place. You don't have that kind of 28-day cycle. You might have like a 30-day cycle or a 40-day cycle. But actually, when you take away the stress, you then go into that natural rhythm of your cycle as well. And obviously, in the perimenopause, periods can be really erratic. And also in the postmenopause, obviously, you're not having any periods at all. But that's kind of essentially how cortisol works. So it pulls away from your natural hormones and it basically produces more progesterone as well, actually. So your periods then stop as well. What happens as well when you have the cortisol steal, there's also a backflow kind of thing, and you're producing more noradrenaline, which is that kind of that body of that fight or flight response. And you're constantly on edge. Your heart's racing. You feel really sweaty as well. And you can imagine that when you're trying to sleep, you're having those palpitations. it's actually really difficult to calm down at that point in time as well. So it's really important to kind of use those. I know that NICE, the new NICE draft guidance that there's a big uproar about, has said about CBT and kind of using it for menopause symptoms, but actually it is really helpful to basically de-stress as well. So yes, there's a place for it in addition to HRT, and it's about practicing mindfulness, it's about practicing yoga, doing kind of your meditation as well is really important. As Zoe says, diet and nutrition is so, so important. So, like, for example, if a lady comes to me and says, look, I've got really bad sleep issues, I can actually go through them and I say, look, tell me about a typical day. What time do you eat your breakfast? What time do you eat your lunch? What time do you eat your dinner? How much tea and coffee do you drink? How much fizzy drinks do you drink as well? So, like, caffeine is a stimulant. So when people say, oh, I drink tea and coffee, probably have my last cup of tea or coffee at 6 o'clock in the evening, 7 o'clock in the evening. Well, that's a stimulant. And for that to go down to 50% in your bloodstream, it takes 12 hours for the body to clear it. So if you can imagine, if someone's having a cup of tea or coffee at 6 in the evening and you're basically trying to go to sleep, you're not going to be able to, because that stimulant's still going around in your bloodstream at high levels as well. So it's really important to try and cut coffee out, cut tea out, go to decaffeinated, cutting down on fizzy drinks as well. When we use our phones, and kind of the phones as well, basically wake up our theta receptors in our brain. So as I said, it's all about chemical neurotransmitters, and the theta receptors will stimulate us, and our brains will be ticking over and ticking over and ticking over. And that's why it's really, Facebook, Instagram, they've got really good algorithms because they'll make you kind of watch those little snippets of things as well. And it'll keep your brain stimulated so you won't be able to then go to sleep. So when when you're getting up at like 3 o'clock in the morning because you've got a disruption of that circadian rhythm, please don't reach for your phones. I'm a huge culprit for it. And actually, have to say, over the last 3 months, I've really made a conscious effort of not using my phone in the middle of the night. And I sleep so much better now. I have my Alexa on like a red light, so it's not stimulating me. And it's so much, I'm actually waking up at 3 in the morning. It's like when my cortisol kicks in, and then I'm like, nope, it's only 3 o'clock in the morning. I look across at my clock and I'll actually go back to sleep again. Whereas previously I'd reach for my phone, be like, okay, let me have a look at the time on my phone, see what it is. And then suddenly your white light is stimulating your brain as well. So your blue lights as well. So you don't want to do that. It's a big no-no. But it's really common, if somebody's like a perimenopausal lady or a postmenopausal lady, if you have like a hot flush as well, that basically stimulates lots of anxiety. And again, that noradrenaline kicks in, and so you have those palpitations and you feel like actually it's going to wake you up. So you're actually really struggling to then go back to sleep as well. So it's kind of using those calming techniques again, saying actually it will pass. So disruption of sleep, as I say, is really, really, really common in the 40 to 50-year-olds. And, it's really important to try and minimize. So hot flushes, keeping your room nice and cool as well. If you can imagine now in winter, we put our radiators on, and if you're sleeping with the door shut, that room's going to get hotter and hotter because it's got your own body heat and the radiator heat as well. The brain does not like change. It does not even like half a degree change as well. So even if your room is going up half a degree, it will stimulate a hot flush as well. So if you can try and keep it a constant temperature, is ideal, basically, to help. The other things, the other things as well that happen is that, as we get older, we actually produce a little bit less melatonin as well. We don't. Oh, it's Casey. Sorry.
No, I'm not sure.
No, okay. So yeah, so the other things that happen as well is that when people are, for example, you get quite a lot of mood disturbances as well. So, as I say, when we're stressed, we really struggle with those cortisol levels. So it is really important to try and keep them down. When we're agitated as well, our heart races naturally, or we get sweaty palms as well. And it is really hard. I know, for example, I've got an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, and they drive me crazy. They drive me up the wall. But actually, when we do things together, and it's really calming. So like we read together before bed so that we're actually all really calm. So we all sit down with our own books, and then we just discuss about the books as well. So, and then we kind of swap books as well, which is quite interesting actually. But you need to find actually people find that there's other things that can happen. So other menopausal symptoms, people might have like restless legs, for example, as well. So, if your legs are jumping all over in bed, for example, that will also stimulate you as well. So, making sure you're well hydrated. Like Zoe's drinking now is perfect. Keeping yourself as hydrated as possible, because restless legs can happen because of dehydration, basically. So if you can imagine, if you're drinking lots of coffee and tea, you're basically dehydrating your body as well. So really, really important is to try and drink 2.5 pints of water, 3 pints of water in a day if you can. So 2 to 3 liters is really, really key. Keep yourself well hydrated. Exercising, doing some stretching exercises before bed as well will certainly help. And as I say, practicing that mindfulness as well. So those are kind of the things I would say around helping yourself with insomnia, as well as obviously menopausal symptoms. But I'm opening it up to yourself if you guys have got any questions at all. Bit of an overview. I've been talking for a while.
No, that's brilliant, Nadira. Thank you so much. And
That's all
and
right.
actually, a lot of the stuff that you mentioned there, they're actually really simple things, aren't they? That aren't
Yeah.
difficult. They're not difficult lifestyle changes that, I suppose, prior to perimenopause, we could go to bed later, we could be on our phones, all of those things wouldn't affect us, would they? We would still go back to sleep easily. But I think, it just sort of highlights that, we just have to work that little bit harder, but just by making those small
And, and, the,
changes.
and the thing is, it's about saying that actually, as we age, things do get different. Don't be harsh to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Like I know that I will. Like last night, I think I probably got up 3 times where I actually woke up, but then went back to sleep again. So you just have to go. Actually, okay, I'm going to wake up. Or, what we say is actually use the bedroom only for sex and sleeping. Don't use it for anything else. Don't have your TV in there. Don't be doing your work in there. You literally, these days, most people have a TV in their bedroom. Get rid of it. I don't have a TV in my bedroom anymore. I used to. I used to be a, big fan of watching TV before bed. But it's really important is that we switch off tech, at least a couple of hours before we go to bed, because actually it is stimulating our brains. The more we spend time on computers, the more we spend time on our phones as well. It's constantly stimulating the brain. So the brain likes rest. So, but be kind, be kind to ourselves. Often we're a bit harsh to ourselves, aren't we? We need to catch up
Absolutely.
on those emails. We need to catch up on those emails, or message our friends, and we don't. You can wait the next day, for that email. It's not life or death at all, or if a friend really needs us, just say, well, actually, do you know what? I'm going to switch off everything at 9 o'clock and that's it. If you really desperately need me, get me tomorrow. It's not a problem. If it's really, really urgent, obviously ring me, don't just text me. Ring me, pick up the phone and actually physically speak to somebody. We often find that we're on WhatsApp, aren't we? Messaging each other all the time. So
Absolutely.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah.
And no, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to touch upon, and I'm going to bring on my next guest as well, Lisa, shortly. I know we've spoken briefly before about it, Nadira, about sort of supplements, adding supplements into your daily routine. I mean, it's certainly something that's been a game changer for me. I and Lisa's actually one of my customers, and I just wanted to talk a bit more about the sorts of products that that we've been taking, and sort of how that sort of helped and benefited us, because again, as I mentioned before, we do need to add good nutrition into our diet. Feeding our body good nutrients is absolutely key, and I think you'll agree with me, Nadira, as a doctor. So I just want to bring on Lisa. So Lisa, if you can perhaps tell us a bit about your story, and what your struggles were, and how you're sort of coping now, and what sort of helped you.
Thank you. I've got a bit of a sore throat, so apologies if I'm a bit wheezy. Um, So yeah, I'm recently turned 50 and had a hysterectomy just before my 41st birthday. And I retained one of my ovaries. So I went into kind of almost like my body went into menopause, and then my remaining ovary kicked back in. And then over, as I approached 50, I was noticing things like lots and lots of anxiety, what I would call a brain fog. I was struggling to sleep, had achy bones, and just didn't feel like me really at all. And so I went and saw my GP, and my GP wasn't unsympathetic, but first thoughts were, oh, could you be depressed? Perhaps, try some antidepressants, and some anti-anxiety medicine, which wasn't really where I wanted to go with it. So I did suggest, could I be sort of perimenopausal? Because by this point I was in my late 40s. And so I was given a test, and it was seen that I was menopausal. And they then talked to me about starting some HRT patches. And so I do feel really fortunate. I've heard horror stories of people, not having to really fight hard for that. My GP was really supportive, gave me HRT patches, which I did try, and had kind of mixed results with them, and was still, I felt better, but I still didn't feel like me again. I was still getting quite anxious, the sleeplessness, and just didn't, just wasn't feeling 100%. And then I can't remember how I found you, Zoe, to be honest. I stumbled upon, I don't know how I did. Maybe I was looking up menopause or something, and I stumbled on the Omega products. And so I thought, well, I'll be honest, first thought is, oh, it's a lot of money. What if it doesn't work? And then I thought, actually, I'm going to spend that a month at Starbucks. So it's not really a lot of money. So let me give it a go and see how it goes. And I felt better quite quickly. I suffer with a couple of other health conditions. I suffer with psoriasis, and also have a diagnosis of epilepsy, which is well controlled, but it's something I have to really manage really carefully. And I just felt a lot better quite quickly, to be honest. So I was taking the products for about a year. I think added in, I now take the berry supplement as well, because I noticed that my hair was starting to be a bit thin and my skin was a bit rubbish. So I thought I'd try those as well. And yeah, really happy with those. And what did happen about 4-5 weeks ago, I think it was. So I went away for the weekend and I forgot my supplements, because I take them everywhere with me, and take them really. And I've made some lifestyle changes. I guess I felt a bit complacent and thought it was fine. Well, by Sunday evening, I woke up with a really, I was struggling to sleep. I woke up having a hot flash, felt really rubbish and anxious again. And I thought, I'm not going to do this to myself again. So yeah, now lesson learned there, that if I thought they were a placebo effect or anything, they certainly weren't, because within 3 days, I didn't feel, I had a sort of a really bad hot flush and didn't feel myself again. So yeah, for me, they've worked really, really well. And a couple of my friends, I think, I've recommended and said, and I don't work for them or anything, but actually, they give me back some quality of life, really, and has cleared up the brain fog. And I'm not averse to the idea of, in the future. So I don't take any HRT now. I don't need to. But if my symptoms got worse again in the future, I'm not averse to going back to seeing the GP. But for now, I can manage them. I can manage my symptoms, with using the supplements and trying to make sort of lifestyle changes.
That's brilliant, Lisa. Thank you for sharing that.
That's right.
And, that's I know I remember you saying to me when you'd had your weekend away, and how much it had just changed over the weekend. So I think, again, it just reiterates that, adding in sort of good nutrition into our body, is sort of key, really, as well as all the other, we're all different, we're all a different specimen, aren't we? So what HRT, I know you obviously talk to a lot of women about HRT, Nadira, and and I know, ladies, it works really well for. But also, I think aside, alongside that, they have had to make lifestyle changes as well, but it's definitely helped them.
I
And I just,
agree.
yeah, I just wanted,
HRT is not the panacea at all. People
no,
think that it will fix everything, and it really won't at all. It will help stabilize, in the perimenopause, it's the fluctuations, and it will help stabilize the fluctuations. But if you're not looking after yourself as well, you know, you need to look after your guts. You need to feed your gut with good supplementation. Our gut is permanently inflamed. We're having processed foods and things. That's what the society we live in these days. We very rarely cook home cooked foods. I do. I cook home cooked foods every night, but it's really easy to get convenient foods, isn't it? And just put it in the oven, and that's processed. Whereas
yeah,
actually, if you cook from scratch, you're cooking your vegetables, you're cooking your meat, it's much, much better for you. We eat with knife and forks, we don't eat with our hands. So we're losing that microbiome that we're getting from our hands, the bacteria we're getting from our hands, just by kind of just putting that back, a hand to our mouth. So I completely agree with Lisa Marie. It's that, actually omega-3s definitely do work. And HRT is not the panacea. It just helps with kind of cardiovascular risk. It helps with osteoporosis risk as well. Helps, obviously, the data is emerging for dementia risk as well. And it helps stabilize our estrogen levels, and those fluctuations, definitely. So I never say to women, actually, you definitely need to have HRT. I encourage women to have HRT. That's, my job as a GP and a menopause specialist is that I tell them about the pros and cons of HRT, and it's making an informed decision together. That's the most important thing.
yeah, absolutely. And also, I think, we need to be encouraging women, to make sure that they are looking at their, like you mentioned about, the processed foods, making sure that we are cooking more from scratch and that we are putting less processed foods into our body, drinking more water, taking in less caffeine. Again, I mean, I used to have a cup of tea every night at 9 o'clock, and neither wonder I was wired. And now I try not to touch caffeine past midday. I mean, I will have one coffee in the morning, and quite often it's decaf. So my life has sort of definitely changed in terms of, taking out the caffeine
Yeah.
from my body. So it
Caffeine
makes such
worsens
a
hot flushes.
difference.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it worsens hot flushes, definitely.
yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? And you'd probably have a cup of coffee thinking that you felt a bit stressed and a bit hot, and actually it's going to make you feel better because you enjoy the coffee, and
Yeah.
it's probably going to have the opposite effect. So but yeah, I mean the omegas that Lisa mentioned, that I recommended that I take, and that have really helped me. They include omegas 3, 7, and 9, and they've also got added vitamin D, zinc, lutein, and lycopene as well, which are really good natural products. And lutein particularly is great for eye care as well. And these are all bioavailable, so our body recognizes it, takes in the nutrients, and they also contain the daily recommended amount of EPA and DHA, which also contribute towards eye, heart, and brain health. And again, I think, when you talked about, your anxiety, Lisa Marie, I think, again, that's obviously your brain, isn't it? Your brain. And I think these supplements, are kind of like helping that in that sense as well, which is why we see so many testimonials of ladies that are struggling with anxiety, particularly in the menopause. I think it's one of the most common things that I speak to women about. Their anxiety levels seem to be, it's the mental health, the sort of cognitive side of things on the menopause seems to be such a big thing, doesn't it? Right, not just the sort of physical things that you notice, like the hot flushes and the night sweats. Although I know the hot flushes can be developed because of what's going on in the brain. And again, it's another, sort of relevant thing. And I also take supplements of fruit, veg, and berries. And I know Lisa mentioned berries again. It's a variety of 30 fruit, veg, and berries. And like Nadira said, how important it is to feed our gut with good health. And they're like the equivalent of raw fruit, veg, and berries. So it's, you know, it's putting really good nutrition into my body, and I don't, you know, I've got a really strong immune system. I don't struggle with many coughs or colds, and I haven't done since I've been taking these. And it's made such a difference to my skin and hair as well, and just my general well-being. So yeah, so I don't know if anybody else has got any questions for Nadira, Lisa. Leanne, if there's anything you wanted to ask, because I know, you know, that side of things was quite important for you, Leanne, wasn't it? Because Leanne's actually had a brain tumor. I'm sure she won't mind me mentioning. And you couldn't take HRT, could you? Because it was a hormone-led tumor, wasn't it? Oh, sorry, I'll just unmute you.
They said that they wouldn't be able to offer HRT and wouldn't, I mean, if it got really, really bad, then they'd look at it again. But after my last consultation, they said HRT wasn't really an option for me. Natural route. So I have been on the Omegas for about 1.5 years now, and they've massively helped with the side effects of perimenopause, because I think after having the tumour, which will be 3 years ago now, I went straight into, I had little symptoms before that, but I think afterwards it was more symptoms. So I started having the hot flushes, I started having massive anxiety, and I think on top of the medication that I was taking, which I still take a medication for epilepsy, because it has left me with a slight epilepsy after the removal of the tumour. But I did have big, I think, which is why I was so interested in this evening, because my cortisol levels were, everything just seemed to be so off balance. So I did add in, as well as the Omegas and my fruit and veg and the berries, I've been on all of them, which has been fantastic for me. I do massively watch my diet, and exercise is really important. I also take magnesium. So I added that in about 6 months ago, and that's really, really helped, really. So with tiredness and sort of muscle activity. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. And
But you've got a really good bedroom routine as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't bring my phone.
Yeah.
My phone goes off at 8:30. I don't look at any part of social media. I take myself up, always have a warm shower, and I do have a TV in my room, I have to say, but it generally doesn't go on all the time. But I do have a really good routine. I find that helps. So I don't really tend to wake up at night. It's more during the day. I might sometimes have a hot flush or something, but it's definitely controlled through the capsules that I take and my diet and exercise, because I can't do the HRT. So yeah.
And what would you say, Nadira, to somebody that, you know, was really struggling with their energy levels, and that, you know, but they, you know, they want to exercise, but they don't have the energy?
Incorporate it in your everyday routine. So even if you do one tiny little thing, like standing on one foot while brushing your teeth, or doing a standing press up while you're waiting for the kettle to boil, and never say it to anyone to join the gym. You know, the gym's expensive, you know, cost of living crisis, but you can incorporate just tiny changes. And if you feel like you want to go for a walk, go for a walk to the end of the road and come back again, and you've achieved it. Go for a walk to the next road and come back again. Don't try and walk 5-10K before you can even do a couple of steps. You know, as I say, be kind to yourself. It's so important, because, as I say, we're not. So incorporate tiny bits of exercise into your everyday routine. It will certainly help. I've just come from a swim, hence my hair's a bit of a mess. But, you know, today I did like 20 laps, whereas, you know, 3 months ago could only probably do 4 or 5 laps, and I've self-taught to swim at the age of 40. So, you know,
Wow.
it's you know, it's kind of incorporating little things into your lifestyle, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
I mean, I do sort of weight workouts, and I started very small, and I've sort of gradually, you know, built that up, and I do it 3 times a week. You know, I'm very consistent, and it's sort of a non-negotiable, you know, unless there's something drastic that I can't. But you know, because I think, again, like you mentioned, you know, we're at such a risk of osteoporosis, so keeping those bones strong and muscles, I think, you know, again, it's really good, you know, to keep that going.
But naturally, when our estrogen levels decline, our skeletal muscle fibers will also lose strength as well. So actually, if we could lift a sack of potatoes in our 20s, we may not be able to lift a sack of potatoes when we're in our 40s and 50s and 60s because of actually the skeletal muscle fibers. So important. Forget treadmills, forget bikes, get yourself lifting weights and help bring that muscle memory back to life again. Definitely.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, isn't it? How it declines over
Mm.
the years. And I guess it's just you know, it spirals out of control, doesn't it? Once you get one thing that's not working right, then it's going to sort of put you back in any form of exercise and makes it difficult to move forward then, doesn't it? So the more we can just keep going whilst we can, happy days. Like you say, going for a
Yeah.
swim.
Yeah, I loved it. It was great.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
so it's
Did
good. It's good
anybody have
because
any? So I was going
it's
to
a
say, did
non-weight bearing
anybody have
sport.
any questions? Because we have got just over 4 minutes left. If anybody else did want to ask any more questions to Nadira or Lisa or
Can I just ask, actually, in regards to you said about fizzy drinks? I mean, I don't particularly drink fizzy drinks, but I do like the odd kind of like diet. That's the same caffeine drink.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I've
absolutely.
sort of looked at myself a few times when I've perhaps had a drink of Diet Coke at sort of 6:30,
Yeah.
and I've monitored it and I've found that it has actually that particular night, that's when
Yeah.
I've woke. Would you say
Yeah.
it would be Diet Coke?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I used to be a real Diet Coke fan. I used to drink sort of 6, 7 cans a day. It's really
Right.
bad. My teeth are ruined. But actually, I've now stopped buying Diet Coke completely.
Yeah.
If I don't have it in the house, I can't drink it. So, you
Yeah.
know, my husband's like, I'm craving Diet Coke, and even he's now stopped. And he said that he's sleeping better as well. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a massive thing. But yeah, no, definitely. It's got lots of aspartate in it as well, which is not great for you. So,
Right.
yeah.
You
So
think, don't you think Diet Coke, it's not going to have all that sugar, but it's the other sort of sweeteners and
it's all the
additives that
sweeteners.
they
Yeah, the artificial
really
sweeteners.
bad. Yeah. I
Yeah.
used to
yeah.
And
drink
also,
loads as well, all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I
Terrible.
literally only have one, and that can send me like make me not sleep. So that's
yeah,
what sort of effect it can have.
yeah, massively. Yeah, definitely cut it down.
Loads of
Yeah.
water.
Cut it out.
A
Yep.
couple of
Yes.
them a day.
Yep. Yeah. I set myself a challenge to drink. I'm notorious for not drinking enough water every day. So I literally have an app on my phone that tells me every time to basically take a drink of water.
Yeah.
Because of my job, we don't drink because when we drink, we get disturbed in clinic and things like that. So I just stopped drinking water. So now I actually have to remind myself to drink.
Oh
That's it.
right. Oh okay. Yeah. No. See,
Yeah.
I think I actually feel more thirsty. I don't know whether it's because I'm feeding my body more water, so it needs it. Even when I'm in the car, I take a bottle in the car with me, because I just feel like I always need a drink of water.
But it's
So
good. It's
yeah.
good.
So I'm
Definitely.
always I think I'm a bit
Helps
like a camel.
helps with metabolism as well. So drinking lots of water is obviously keeping your metabolism up. But I would recommend everyone who listens to this, making sure you have a daily vitamin D and keep your iron levels above 70 to 100 as well. You know, so keep your ferritin levels high. You know, if you go and have your blood tests done, in normal range, but actually your ferritin should be above 70 to 100 for good hair health, good skin health as well. So kind of a daily iron supplement, a daily vitamin D supplement as well. Helps with metabolism. So yes, definitely
Brilliant.
recommend. But
I
yeah,
think we are literally going to run out of time any minute. So
no worries.
I
Yeah,
just
lots
want
of
to say,
alternatives to HRT.
yeah, thank you so much, Nadira, for coming on. That's been really, really helpful. And thank you, Lisa, for sharing your journey. And Leanne, thanks for your input as well. It's been quite a nice little chat, ladies.
Yeah,
So
Very informative.
very informative, yes. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your week.
yeah.
It's only
Enjoy.
Monday. And
Well
yeah,
done.
take care. And I shall post something on my group. So if anybody wants to contact Nadira, she's available for consultations and things
Yeah,
like that. So she's got her
absolutely.
own private clinic. So I'll put your details on there.
Fab,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks very much,
Thank you.
ladies.